Hi, welcome to the video. Welcome if you're currently here in the live premiere, appreciate it. Today we're going to be following on with some of the latest news in the Idaho 4 case with Bryan Kohberger, that one. And we've got a couple of different articles to get through, one of which is talking about the sheath of the knife which was used in the crime scene, sheath being found in the house, I believe, but it's got DNA on it which links to Bryan. Okay, so we just read through that article, see what additional information is present, because they might have some add-ons, follow-ups, just to make more sense of it, I guess. And then there is like two other articles, one to do with a follow-up with, obviously, with the court hearings, court case, how things been delayed and the slight implications there. And as well, there was another article which was in a way comparing or contrasting Bryan Kohberger to Ted Bundy, which is a bit random, you know, just to make that comparison or so there. So we are going to go through each article one by one, read through it, try and make sense of it. And of course, everyone in the live chat, feel free to share your thoughts, opinions and reactions, whether you agree or not with the stuff presented. As well, if you want to fill in the blanks, gaps, feel free. If you want to do, if you want to add in and highlight contradictions made within these news articles, you can do that too, because as you know, I've done it myself when it came to looking at the Kenny Veach and Dylan Rounds missing person news articles. So the same can be done here, right? Do we need to check the comments of the last video? Not really. If there is time later, I guess we could refer back to the older video, but it's not like a main priority at this moment in time. So yeah, we'll just go through the articles. Before we do continue, just shout out to Graham Knott, because of last night's presence, super chat, very good of him, considering we were talking about a completely different case, but he still came along, watched and showed his presence, so that's very good of him. And as well, speaking of last night's video, if you haven't already, if you want the latest breaking news in the Kenny Veach M Cave mystery case, missing person case, make sure to check my video out last night, because that's what it was all about. Breaking news, Crystal Skull, mine shaft, someone confessing, opening up public and reaching out and explaining the story behind it. So I'll provide a link down below in the pinned comment section if you wish to check it out. Okay, so it's about time now that we move on to the articles and make sense of them. Okay, so the title of the first article reads, DNA on knife sheath links Bryan Kohberger to the Idaho murder site, court documents claim. It says a DNA analysis suggests that the suspect is more likely the source of the DNA on crime weapon. This was 3 hours ago as of reading it right now. Interesting. It says DNA from the cheek swab of a man charged with the slaying of 4 Idaho University students last year has been found to be a statistical match to that found on the knife sheath at the crime scene, according to a new court filing. This is to do with Bryan Kohberger. 28 years of age, is charged with the killing of Ethan Chapin, 20 years old, Zana Knodel, 20, Kaylee Goncalves, 21, and Maddie Mogan, 21 years of age, in the early hours of 13th of November 2022. So as we do go along here, it will probably give references to old news and past events and dates, times, statistics. Okay, just so you're aware of that. It might actually help some people who are new to this case catch up and learn what happened in the past. Okay, it can be useful. So far, interesting DNA analysis. The knife sheath, which was left at the scene of the crime, was that on purpose? Was it accidental? You'd think it'd be accidental, just simply forgot. Okay. Does it make you think that if the knife sheath was not present, then, you know, would Bryan have been apprehended as quick? I mean, I think probably reality is, when you take into mind all the other bits of evidence, and there seems to be a fair bit, and like the digital footprint online, that Elantra being found eventually, I think it wouldn't have really impacted it too much in terms of getting a hold of Bryan Kohberger. Maybe though, in the court scenario of like evidence for and against, that definitely would have like unbalanced things, I guess. Let's move on. Apologies if there is any annoying sounds in the background. It's just once again silly neighbours, inconsiderate people causing a lot of noise. Okay. Anyway, it says here in the article, a new court filing by Latah County prosecutors unveiled the details to the public for the first time, shedding light on the investigative methods used by the FBI to zero down on the prime suspect in the case. A police affidavit previously connected Mr. Kohberger's DNA with the DNA found on the knife sheath retrieved from the scene of the crime. So, as you see here, it says previously connected Kohberger's DNA with the DNA found on knife sheath. So, the way it's worded here is if it's already happened. It's like old news, this. Yet the title of this article makes it seem like it's only just suddenly happened. So you got to be careful when you do read the language of these different news media outlets, okay? I'm sure the people that are familiar with this case and keep up with it on a day-to-day basis will know what is what, and they should be the ones to highlight the poor usage of language at times in this news stuff, kind of like what I did in the Dylan Rounds case, right? Okay. It says it has been revealed that a short tandem repeat STR was developed using the evidence found on the knife sheath. The process involved looking at 20 regions within human DNA, allowing law enforcement to make a direct comparison between two STR DNA profiles. In quotes, a traditional STR DNA comparison was done between the STR profile found on the K-bar knife sheath and defendant's DNA. The comparison showed a statistical match, the court filing said. So it even gives the name or the brand of the knife a K-bar. Now, I've heard of K-bar knives before. I remember seeing them used on Zombie Go Boom TV on YouTube when they were testing out different items on like a zombie Ivan head to like zombie apocalypse scenarios. And whenever they used the K-bar knives, they were very effective and pretty, dangerous when using. So you can only imagine, the effects of it within the Idaho 4 case, right? It says, the new filing said that a matching STR profile makes it more likely that the suspect is connected to the crime weapon. The STR profile is at least 5.37 octillion times more likely to be seen if the defendant is the source than if an unrelated individual randomly selected from general population is the source, the filing stated. Additionally, the documents provide details of a protective order sealing the development of the DNA profile and all associated documentation concerning the construction of the genealogical family tree. It added that the sheath was partially under Madison's body and the comforter on the bed. Right. So if it's partially under Madison's body, Madison, taken out at the time, then fell to the ground on top of the sheath. At what point did the sheath fall on the ground? Was it when Bryan went on in and then, unsheathed the knife and dropped the sheath onto the floor and then begun doing what he did? Or is it a bit later on? Not quite sure, but you get the order of certain things, how it seems as if Madison fell onto it. The sheath fell on the ground first, and then she did afterwards. That could also explain why it was left there, because if she's partially covering it, Bryan probably didn't see it at the time to think, oh, I need to pick it up. But did it ever go through his mind thinking, do I have everything with me? Did I leave anything behind? I don't know. Unless it could have been one of those moments where it was like, yeah, it does feel like there is something, but I can't find it and I can't stick around too long, so I just have to leave. I just have to go. Interesting. When it said about the DNA swab off the cheek of Kohberger's face and how it's tied with the DNA found on the sheath, is it saying that DNA from the cheek of the face was the specific area which touched and made contact with the sheath? Or did they just use the DNA from that particular area of the body for a certain reason? Because I can understand a sheath would have like fingerprints on it normally, because that's where it would be around and where you'd grab hold of it or so. But if it's to do with the cheek area, how did the sheath get up that high on the face? That's why I don't think that's really the case. But nevertheless, DNA has been found, or previously has been found, as it should be worded. It says investigators were able to trace the DNA evidence to Mr. Kohberger by matching it to DNA found on trash recovered from his family home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. The 28-year-old criminology PhD student faces life in prison or the death penalty if found guilty. Yeah, we've heard that recently about death penalty, how one of the victims' families wants the death penalty by firing squad. Yeah. As Mr. Kohberger is being held in the Latah County Jail in Moscow on 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 burglary charge. He is set to go on trial on 2nd of October. Yeah, we heard about that in the previous article, so that's consistent there. Is that it? Okay. What's that? Up next, Dylan Rounds missing from Lucid. Page 24. Oh, yeah. I get that. That's just something I've been looking at previously with the Dylan Rounds case. Okay, fair enough. Interesting when it says DNA evidence to Mr. Kohberger was able to trace it through the DNA found on trash recovered from the family home. Wow. So, even if the person has it somewhat under control, they always tend to leave the odd trail or mistake left behind, which catches up on them in the long run, right? Anyway, with this article aside, let's move on to the Ted Bundy comparison one and see what that's all about. Here is the title of the second article. Once again, another recent one, and it says Bryan Kohberger would have studied Ted Bundy before Idaho murders, but there's a key difference, ex-FBI agent says. Okay, would have studied Ted Bundy. So what? Is this all in reference to do with being, having a PhD, criminology, looking at crime, looking at past cases? I mean, like even to a much smaller extent, when I was studying psychology in college in the past, we looked at different cases. We obviously looked at Ted Bundy, we looked at Charles Manson, etc., and maybe Jeffrey Dahmer a little bit. So I'm sure Bryan Kohberger would have done too, but more extensively, and his own personal interest in the background, right? What isn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't it true that a day before it happened, an individual unknown at the time, which was Bryan, was seen lurking around the house, almost scouting it out? Is that true? I'm sure I remember something saying that in a past article. So it's almost like, mapping it out, getting an understanding of the environment, how it looks, what's around, is there any cameras, yes or no? Also looking at past serial killers to see how they acted, behaved, what they did at the time, their methods, their actions, their attitude, behavioural patterns, and even how they acted and appeared later on down the line, such as Ted Bundy when he, defended himself and acted as the lawyer himself on his own behalf, which was a bit unique in a way and kind of odd. Anyway, maybe if we read more, we'll get a better idea. So you got a photo down the left is Bryan Kohberger, on the right is Ted Bundy. Could you make any comparisons immediately? Could you say that they look the same? I don't know. It's different. One's a side profile, the other one's face on. As for the hair, well, you could say it's almost like the same length. The nose does look different though. The eyes, a little bit different. The smirk, kind of similar though, I would say. Okay. Says, a former FBI agent has shed light on the similarities between accused University of Idaho killer Bryan Kohberger and the notorious serial killer Ted Bundy. As Kohberger's lawyers have requested a pause in the proceedings, former Special Agent Tracy Walder revealed there's no doubt that Kohberger knew about Bundy. I mean, you could say that about a lot of people in this world. Who doesn't know who Ted Bundy is, right? Up to a certain point. Whether it be you look into it because you're interested in true crime or interested in criminology or interested in psychology, Okay, maybe you're more likely to hear it if you're living in the US somewhere, even if you see it in newspapers, articles, documentaries, obsessions on YouTube shorts or TikTok shorts, as you know, those little obsessions there about Ted Bundy and other stuff in between. I mean, I'm sure quite a few people will know who Ted Bundy is, and you don't have to be in a position, you don't have to have a PhD to know who Ted Bundy is. You don't have to be in a university or anything like that. You can just casually hear the name mentioned, right? Even if you're just randomly scrolling on YouTube, right? Anyway, I do understand it's probably more likely that he knew about Bundy. A bit more of a backstory because probably analysing him and comparing. Kohberger has been accused, yeah. That's another photo of Ted Bundy there, appearing in court. Some have said it's a chilling reminder of Ted Bundy's crimes. I mean, I think you've got to also take in mind that the difference with Ted Bundy and Bryan Kohberger is the numbers of victims, right, that he took out. And as well, with Bryan Kohberger, it was done like all in one day, right? With Ted Bundy, it was done over a course of time. And I believe with Ted Bundy, it was very specific, the type of people he was going after. All female, and maybe with brunette coloured hair. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there was these like specificness of who he went after. Whereas with Bryan Kohberger, it doesn't seem to be as locked on, right? Now, if anyone wants to fill in the background, was there rumours or something that it's not the first time Bryan Kohberger has taken people out of this world? Has it happened in the past too? I heard some like loose talk about it. I know just recent, unrelated, but it's a bit of a coincidence in terms of the numbers. Anyone in the chat right now, has anyone heard about the recent murder case, different, where 4 people have been taken out, killed by some other guy in Idaho? Did anyone else hear about that? Bit weird, isn't it? Taking out 4 people. Is it going to come out down the line that killer ends up saying, oh, I did it in the name of Bryan Kohberger, the magic number 4? I don't know. I don't know if it will go down a weird route like that, but just want to see if anyone is aware of it. It's kind of weird timing in a way. Anyway, it says, since his arrest, Kohberger has been compared to the notorious Florida State University student killer Bundy. So the university link, the educational background, I get that. Bundy was convicted in 1979 after murdering 2 FSU sorority sisters and brutally attacking 2 others. Madison Milligan, Kaylee Goncalves, Zana Knodel, and Ethan Chapin were found murdered at a rental home near the University of Idaho campus this past November, a crime which Kohberger has been accused of. Walder did point out differences between the 2 men. Bryan Kohberger, if we look at sort of the reporting that's been done about him, he was not someone that I would say is charming. Oh, okay. So the opposite with Bundy, because people say Bundy looks kind of charming, his personality or his presence, facial expressions, his eyes, the glare, the overall face. That's why still to this day you get people that fantasize about Bundy online, where they've got the little Tumblr forums and the YouTube short edits to do with Bundy, My Little Bundy, and all of that. Yeah. But the same that Bryan Kohberger is not charming. What? So what is he then? You know what I'm saying? By all accounts, he was standoffish and he didn't get along with a lot of people. Ted Bundy actually used his charm to commit a lot of crimes. Days ago, Kohberger's legal team requested a timeout in legal proceedings to determine if there was a bias in the Idaho murder suspect case. See, this is the thing. And the other addition of difference is Ted Bundy took more people out than Kohberger did. But I think one of the factors which could tie in line with that is the charming nature, the factor of charm, being able to maybe wiggle your way out of stuff with time, to prolong things, to entice and lure people closer to you. That's what Bundy could do. But with Kohberger, if it's saying here that he didn't get on well with people, then I guess harder to take people out in a way. So if you're gonna do it, you gotta plan ahead. You gotta use other factors to counter your weaknesses. That would have been in Kohberger's case at the time, right? Anything else down here? I painted my fence. Good for you. I wear this on the lawn. You sound a bit of a narcissist. Anyway, let's move on. So as a legal expert said, Kohberger's legal backbench might be laying the preliminary groundwork to file a motion to dismiss the case. Wow. Kohberger's legal team requested the pause in legal proceedings earlier this week. That's true, we did hear about it. 28-year-old has been charged, yeah. He was a PhD student at Washington State University Department of Criminal Justice and Criminology when he was accused of, November 13, 2022, that still checks out. Kohberger was arrested and charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary, by a secret grand jury on May 16th, 2023. May 16th, that was the date I heard in the past article, but it wasn't quite explained as clear, but it is now. 28-year-old maintains his innocence and declined to submit a plea at the hearing in May, which resulted in the judge entering a not guilty plea on his behalf. And ever since he's been pretty quiet, not really talked much. Eager to prove his innocence, Kohberger's lawyers now claim that audio recordings and partial transcripts received by the grand jury do not contain exculpatory evidence that would disprove wrongdoing. Okay. There's Kohberger there, walking on him. There, the victims there. Okay. Is that it? Okay. Oops. So he's jumping ahead. Well, I guess that's one way of moving on. We're on to the next article. I don't know what happened there. It was like we time travelled or something. Anyway, we'll read it. So this is the next article. A day before, because this is June 19th, the article what we just read before, the Ted Bundy compare-contrast, that was on the 20th of June. This is the 19th. But it reads, Bryan Kohberger to fight indictment as lawyers ramp up Idaho suspect's defence. Wow, ramping it up. Kohberger chooses to stand silent, yes, at arraignment last month. He seems to be smiling more there. Now, is Kohberger smiling to her on the right or not? I don't know. Idaho student murder suspect plans to fight the grand jury indictment against him on November 2022. Okay. His lawyers have asked the court to stay proceedings as they wrestle with prosecutors over the disclosure of more materials, according to new court filings. Police arrested Kohberger, 28, about 7 weeks after the allege he snuck into an off-campus rental home, and took the people out. Judge John Judge. What? That's a bit of a interesting name. Judge John Judge, bit of a tongue twister, entered a not guilty plea on Kohberger's behalf at his arraignment last month when the defendant chose to stand silent. In court filings, Kootenai County Public Defender Ann Taylor explained the move was intended to preserve his right to contest the indictment. There's a different photo there. Public Defender Ann Taylor. Okay. And that was court hearing on June the 9th. So in quotes, Mr. Kohberger has the right and intends to contest the indictment, Taylor said in a motion to stay proceedings last week amid a standoff with prosecutors as she seeks to obtain grand jury materials. In order to fight the indictment, she said, the defense wants additional grand jury materials that prosecutors have not handed over. Bit of dodginess there, not handing certain stuff over, stalling it possibly. I remember the last article we looked at, it was talking about how they believe that there is an alibi to defend Kohberger, to show his innocence, that there is some material, additional evidence out there, but it's not been handed over yet for the defense team to take a look at. They want to slow the pace down so they can get a grip of things and try and put up a fight. Even if the majority of the general public don't agree with it, I guess it's just what they've got to do, right? That's why they're still treating Kohberger as a suspect Can I just say one thing? It might be completely different, so just correct me if I'm wrong. But do you know when it comes to the Dylan Rounds case and Brenner, James Brenner, being officially charged with the murder, desecration of Dylan Rounds, but the actual court case, the true court case behind the crime and the charges haven't really gone underway yet. Within the Idaho 4 case, Bryan Kohberger is already into these court proceedings and hearings, and it seems a bit more in-depth and there's more action going on and just, a bit more active compared to the dragged-out nature of the Dylan Rounds case and Brenner. Yet Kohberger is still treated as a suspect right now. I don't know, it just feels like more has gone on with the court proceedings, hearings within the Idaho 4 case than the Dylan Rounds case. Yet Kohberger is still only a suspect, whereas Brenner, in the Dylan Rounds case, has been officially charged. It might sound very obvious that and silly, but I don't know, it just seems a bit odd. Anyway, whatever. What else do we have? In order to fight indictment, she said the defence wants additional grand jury materials. Prosecutors, Ms. Kohberger seeks to stay the proceedings as appropriate relief whilst the matter the grand jury recorded is argued and prepared. Taylor wrote, he is exercising due diligence to discover the grounds upon which to file a motion to dismiss related to how the grand jury was selected. He's been delayed through no fault on his own. Okay. Prosecutors from Latah County and the State Attorney General's office countered that Kohberger's argument is misplaced and deficient under state law. Defendant asked this court to put the cart before the horse, stay the case now, and defendant will give the court a basis for the stay later. Prosecutors wrote in their objection, the court should decline to adopt this backward reading of requirements of Idaho Code. Defendant's motion should be denied. There's a bit of counter-resistance coming back. Bill Thompson, I believe, is the one that wanted to raise the court expenses to, $135,000 something. It needed to be increased. The lengthy investigation involved police in multiple states and help from the FBI. According to court documents, police recovered DNA from a K-bar knife sheath discovered next to Mogen's body that helped lead them to Kohberger's parents' home in Pennsylvania, and then that led to getting that DNA from the trash at the parents' place, which then linked to Kohberger. Right, so you can say that the sheath did act as a catalyst from going from one place to another place, creating a new lead. So maybe without that sheath, things would be a lot different. Okay, I get that now. But the way it's worded here, that the sheath was next to Mogen's body, that seems incorrect because how it was worded in the previous article we read, it said it was partially covered by Mogen's body, basically meaning that Mogen was kind of on top of it. Where here it's mentioned it seems to be an open plain sight. So, yeah, a little bit of dodgy word in there, if we be honest. Okay. Continue. Police arrested him there on December 30th, 2022 through his attorney in Pennsylvania before he waived extradition to Idaho. He said he was eager to be exonerated. He entered no plea at his initial appearance, and Taylor's office had planned to challenge the probable cause used for his arrest warrant in a preliminary hearing originally scheduled for June 26. Okay. However, a grand jury handed down a superseding indictment last month on 4 counts of first-degree murder and a felony burglary charge, meaning the preliminary hearing was no longer necessary. Okay. The defense is going to ultimately get a lot of the information related to the grand jury as long as there is a legal basis, said Edwina Elcox, a prominent Boyce-based defense attorney whose past clients have included Lori Vallow. In order to determine if there is a challenge to any of the jurors or the entire panel, they have to have the information related to the people that made up the grand jury. She told Fox News Digital the delivery of that information to the defense would likely require court order. Kohberger has a master's degree in criminal justice and was studying for a PhD in criminology at Washington State University, which is less than 10 miles from the University of Idaho campus and where the slayings took place. Once again, it just goes to show that no matter the educational background you have, you can always make mistakes, slip up, and it catches up on you down the line. Judge set a hearing on the defense motion for June 27. Kohberger is being held without bail at the Latah County Jail in Moscow, Idaho. Held without bail, so I guess that's like the same with Brenner, okay? In a jail, not a prison yet. He could face the death penalty if convicted. Trial is scheduled to begin on October 2nd. Yeah, we heard that. Michael Ruiz. Oh yeah, I was going to mix it with another person there. Okay, so that appears to be it for the news articles as of recent time. So there were like a couple of other articles as of recent time, but they seem to overlap with one another and what we've previously read in the last video I did. So I didn't want to, cram up the space too much. I wanted to present to you what was posted as of either today or yesterday, round about then, okay? And as we saw, some of it, or a fair bit, well, not a fair bit, some of it is old news, which isn't a bad thing. It's just simply looking back at and understanding, and maybe it helps teach people about what's happened in the past and how things played out. But the title of the first article, where it was just basically worded as, this links to that, DNA of Kohberger links to her, and it's like, wow, breaking news. If you weren't aware of the case to begin with, you'd think it's happened right now, but the more you read about it in the article, it happened previous. But you're not going to know until you get to that point in the article when reading through it, okay? So, yeah, just let me know your thoughts to what you think. I mean, the talk about Ted Bundy, how they're adding that in. I mean, is there any shape, format to think outside of the box, maybe? Is it just Ted Bundy? Could there be any other serial killers out there which Bryan Kohberger looked up to? Any specific serial killers out there which have influenced Bryan Kohberger, like did at the time? Whether it be the method of taking people out, the type of environment, mirroring or copying behavior, the presence of a notorious person out there. You get what I'm saying? I mean, I think they were saying that he's got issues, long-term ones, psychological things, wouldn't be surprised there. But just saying, did studying criminology, in that PhD, psychology, all that stuff, and crime, did just simply studying that trigger anything within him? A certain interest, a certain dark side? Was there a catalyst way back then just by studying something out of interest because they wanted to, but it unearthed a form of darkness within them? Maybe that darkness was already there, but like a light switch turned it on. You think that's possible? Does anyone agree? Because the police talk about the comparisons or the contrast with Ted Bundy and Kohberger, which is kind of interesting. I think it just makes it a little bit more likely because of the educational background with Kohberger. If Kohberger was studying completely other different stuff, then maybe you wouldn't link as much with the serial killer theme, right? Kind of interesting, to be honest. So I think what we'll do now, just to catch up, we'll look back on the previous Idaho 4 video I did, look at the comment section, answer any questions if necessary, and just make sense of what other people think, because I don't think I did respond back to those comments, so I can make up for that now and go from there. Let's head on over to the comments. Okay, here we are. We just arrange it to the newest, start from the bottom, work our way up. So we haven't got too many comments to get through, but we'll just see what's here. So to begin with, Indiana saying, I love this case. So many twists and turns and a good fill-in whilst we wait for more information on Dylan Rounds and Brenner's upcoming trial. So basically, to put it in other words, Indiana finds the Idaho 4 case interesting, right? And with the twist and turns over time, I mean, it kind of mirrors maybe to a very small degree the Dylan Rounds case, things happening, unexpected developments, if you want to call it that, right? Whether it be to do with evidence or people being talked about, suspicions from the beginning, early days, or even present day now, right? Because both cases individually are still ongoing, more so within the court legal area, right? And yeah, I guess you could call it, like to fill in between, because obviously you can only cover the Dylan Rounds case so much. It sounds a bit ironic me saying that, considering I've done 327 videos on the case, but nevertheless, right? To have these little pauses to look at something else, I guess, can help maybe refresh people's mindsets. The light-hearted videos can help people in that way, but it doesn't work for everyone. So just by covering a different case, it might help them. I get that. Skeptical saying, thanks for adding this to the RAF report. Almost time for Dylan Rounds premiere. Need to go comment on your last Don Hatley video. I'll watch this. That's good to know. Shout out to Skeptical. So this was 3 days ago at the time of when I did actually upload a Dylan Rounds video later on in the night. So just in case you're wondering what the context is. Missy Zer... I never say the name correctly, I don't think. Tell me if I do in the chat. Missy Zarvenya. I think so. Saying, thanks for your thoughts. I decided from the beginning not to closely follow this obnoxious, oversized case. Only interested in the resolution, but I'll be sure to catch from true crime community. Fair enough. Okay. Obnoxious, oversized case. Christie herself has said it's a bit messy and maybe a little bit toxic or a little bit hypocritical. So it's interesting seeing, people's point of views on this case, right? People that have been around it and have learned and followed it as it's gone along. And, is there a greater negative outlook on the Idaho 4 case compared to the Dylan Rounds case? I'm not too sure, really. I mean, the community in the Dylan Rounds case can have a bad name and it can be very messy and wild. True. I remember doing a poll in the past when I was looking at Idaho 4 case, and I said, is the community toxic? Is it as bad as the Dylan Rounds one? And quite a few people, the majority, said yes, it is bad. There's a lot going on online at the time. Does it apply nowadays? I don't know. But anyone in the chat right now, let me know. Is the community in the Moscow Idaho 4 case with Bryan Kohberger, is it still toxic, still active? Is it volatile? Can anyone give examples of the bad stuff that's gone on YouTube or whatever platform where it's happening? Let me know. Okay, I'm interested. Do we have anything else here? Pokerface, May 2023. Poll, released or listened? Slim to none. Right. Skeptical. Alibi. Wasn't Kohberger blood found at the scene? Like 99% match. Will this be another OJ case? Planting of blood evidence BS? As for the blood of Kohberger, I wasn't aware of that. But from what we read, at least in this article today, it was saying that the sheath, the K-bar knife sheath, which was left at the scene of the crime by Kohberger accidentally, I presume, the one which was underneath one of the victims' bodies, had DNA on it linked to Kohberger. But it didn't exactly say blood, it just said a form of DNA. So it could just be prints or sweat or something from the body of him, right? So maybe that's what you mean, Skeptical, maybe. What's this? And his phone pinged in the area at the time of these poor murders, right? Need to read back to refresh my memory. If it was to do with phone pings as well, you'd be thinking, why would Bryan take his phone with him to the scene of the crime? Well, take his phone with him to the spot where the crime was going to be committed, right? You thought you would know better, right? Unless it's been mixed up here. Anyway. Memory refreshed, blood on knife sheath, close match. A car like his on CCTV arriving in the area, true, and departing at a high rate of speed. Cell phone pinged at 2:44, a time he would have left Pullman. Phone turned off at 2:47 for 2 hours. Turned back on around the time the car left the area and pinged again 5 hours later in the area of the crime scene before murders were reported. Right, so turn it on and off maybe to try and lessen being traced, but didn't really work out, did it? I think it just would have been more wise if you're Bryan Kohberger at the time to just leave the phone back at your house or wherever you come from, right? Taking it with you seems very risky, right? Just having your phone turned on with the weather app in the background, or some other apps which require and use one's location. That's how you can track the phone pings of people, just like in the Dylan Rounds case with Dylan's phone, right? You just thought Bryan Kohberger, with his educational background, and if he was influenced or just simply studied criminology, crimes, true crime, serial killers, that he would have learned the things, what to do and what not to do, to avoid the mistakes all those serial killers made in the past, which led to them being caught. You thought Bryan Kohberger may have adapted, yet he didn't, from the looks of it, right? What's this one? Showbread, heard they called police early and didn't wait. Laughing emoji. Right, okay. Ruth Carter, scrambling prosecution, doesn't look like rock solid case and witness testimony is dodgy. Possibly. I mean, it seems to be a bit messy, right, in the court case, court hearings, a bit of delaying, some evidence in the background, trying to get the defence sorted out. You know, who knows where it could go next, right? Is there going to be any more twists and turns with a certain alibi or bit of evidence? Could it just suddenly all be cleared like that and boom, innocent? Seems messy. It does seem a bit messy. What else? Jacqueline saying, the most I've seen charged was from the slaying of 8 family members in Pike County. It was over $2 million and trial still going on. Just the father Togo to trial, date not set. Wow. Wait, so when did this happen, Jacqueline? Recent? A year ago? Wow. 8 family members taken out, and it was over $2 million in expenses, and the trial is still ongoing, so the cost can keep on being accumulative, right? Wow. So it's good of Jacqueline to add this bit of information in, bit of background. Wow. Let me know your thoughts in the chat. Have you ever seen anything like this? Have you ever heard of this case? Let me know. Forum I know of is Web Sleuths. Yeah, I've heard of Web Sleuths. It was used in the Dylan Rounds case by some people. I found it kind of hard to navigate. It seemed a bit messy, the forums and just how it was structured. What's this one? User, maybe people should realise what perception management is before. Maybe don't be a default profile either. Alex, same old voice, same old default profile with zero contribution to the case. Yeah, so it looks like we've come to the end of it. We have seen the patterns and continuation of default profiles being a bit whingy, whiny, possibly at times, but it is to be more expected with the Idaho 4 case, considering I'm not a long time, person covering the case, right? I've just come on in. So I anticipate criticism, especially in this case, and that's fine. Anyway, I think that will do for now. As I said, if you do have any additional comments, questions, grievances, feel free to list them down below. And of course, make sure to check out my previous latest breaking news video on the Kenny Veach M Cave missing person mystery case. Okay, it's all there. Should be fine. We'll see what happens next. We'll see what twists and turns occur, whether it be Kenny Veach case, Dylan Rounds, Idaho 4. I think maybe there is possibilities, in a way, maybe to lock on with another case at some point. So it's like a triangular effect. I don't like the idea of looking at too many cases because it gets a bit too saturated and a bit too all over the place. You do still want a flow, right? So I think just focusing on a couple at a time probably works best, and just keep doing what one is doing because it seems to be the right thing to do, and people acknowledge it, which is good of them. So hopefully you found this video somewhat interesting. Maybe you learned something new. Let me know down below. I think we'll leave it there for now. Thanks for watching. Appreciate the patience, and yeah, goodbye and good night.